Dave DuFour. Does some pods and such with The Athletic. You can find him at theathletic.com. I always recommend The Athletic. They're fantastic. Been a subscriber from day one. And Dave joins us right now. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. So we're just kind of sitting around now. Everybody's still basking in the glow of the Mike Conley deal for the Utah Jazz here in Salt Lake City, and now waiting to see what Dennis Lindsey and Justin Zanuck decide to do with Derrick Favors, which they've got to make a decision by July 6th. But the decision: do you bring him back or do you release him, not pick up the option and use that cap money elsewhere? So before we talk free agency, what did you make of the Conley deal for the Jazz?
I thought it was a great deal. I thought it was a deal that they should have made at the trade deadline, to let Dante Exum, who was a player that I really like, to let him get in the way of taking a legitimate swing at a finals run, I thought was a mistake. And, it's good that they made up for it. He's a perfect backcourt partner for Donovan Mitchell. He's going to be very, very good in Utah.
Yeah, I agree. I was one that wanted to do it at the deadline as well. Would have been made. I don't know if that gets them past Houston by any means, but it would have made that Houston series markedly more interesting. I do like, though, this time around, even though they gave up a lot of pieces, I didn't feel like they gave a lot up to get him, if that makes sense.
I don't think that they gave up too much. I think it was a good move, and look, the Warriors are down and out, and everyone's going to be taking their biggest swing. So, it's either, go ahead and get Conley now or you miss out.
No, and I agree with that. And you've now got your quote-unquote big three. You've got Mitchell, you've got Gobert, and now you've got Mike Conley. And as you said, the window's open in the West for a lot of people. We haven't been able to say that in 4 or 5 years. There's a number of teams, depending on what plays out here over the next couple of weeks, that could be in the mix in the West because of what happened with Golden State. And I do think the Jazz could be one of those teams. Do you agree, Dave?
Yeah, I think that any short list of contenders for the Western Conference Championship should include the Jazz. Clearly this is a good team that got better.
Completely agree, and now the question becomes, what do the Utah Jazz do? Are you better served? And again, it all depends on what kind of a deal you can do, and that's the good news. You don't have to make a decision on Favors until July the 6th, so you can work the phones now for the next week and figure out what you can bring back. 10 years in, Derrick's not changing his game. He is who he is. He's a 15-8 guy who can play some power forward, can back up Rudy Gobert in a pinch too. But as you look at the Jazz, do you go bold and release that and try and bring some things in, or do you like the idea of bringing Favors back?
Well, I think you don't do anything, like you said, until you know what you're doing. There's a lot of, we want to jump the gun a little bit, but that July 6th guarantee date or option date is crucial in this entire process, because if you're going to land a free agent, then you can not pick up the option. You can decline it, and then you've got, a little bit of cap space. But Derrick Favors is a good player, and he's going to have a trade market. So, you want to definitely float his name out there, see who is, going to come calling. There's going to be teams that can use a guy with his sort of defensive versatility. And I actually think he's a 5, and in Utah he plays a lot of 4. So I think we could actually see him be better in a different situation. And, he's not making a ton of money. And the other thing is, if let's say you strike out in free agency and you can't find a trade market for him now, he's an $18 million expiring contract. So those are always good. You're going to have teams like Atlanta, Memphis, any bad team that's got cap space, Cleveland, who are going to be willing to take on these contracts, when you're looking to make a push around the trade deadline to actually round out your roster for the playoffs. So, it's a no-brainer to definitely hold off, see what's out there. And worst case scenario, guess what? You brought back a good player.
No, that's exactly right. That's the upside to this. If you can't lure a free agent or multiple free agents here with that cap space, you're falling back on a guy that you know what he's going to give you. And worst case, as you said, come February, you might have a nice piece to be able to move along to get something at the trade deadline.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that we all get a little bit too caught up in the asset collection portion of NBA team building and sometimes lose sight of, hey, having good players is a good thing. Now, I get it. Like, there are contract concerns and there's a salary cap and all this stuff. But in this instance, hey, you're going to wind up with a player that you like for your team, or you're going to wind up with a very good player that was already on your team. Like, I think that, it's kind of a win-win scenario for the Jazz.
Talking to Dave DuFour, he's with The Athletic. You can find him on Twitter at Dave DuFour, DuFour, NBA, and that's where you'll find him there. I was talking about in the last segment, 2 years ago at this time, Utah Jazz fans, this market had its heart ripped out on July the 4th by Gordon Hayward in his ill-conceived letter to the Players Tribune. I never had a problem with Gordon leaving. I didn't know if he would stay or go. The way he left, to me, was really clunky and not very well orchestrated for a team that, basically developed him. I thought there were better ways to leave. But a few weeks later, when Summer League began and the Jazz and their fan base kind of found out what they had in Donovan Mitchell, some of that began to be soothed. And then he had a great rookie year, great follow-up year last year. Now he's everywhere. I mean, he won the dunk contest. Yesterday he's in a Spider-Man movie commercial. He's got a new shoe out from Adidas, has that great post at the Players Tribune. It's really, he's something, Dave, and there's been a lot of good basketball players, Stockton and Malone come to mind, that have come through this market. I don't know that the Jazz have ever had anybody quite like Donovan Mitchell, who's got some play nationally as a personality, not just a basketball player. Be curious your view of Mitchell a couple of years in as both the player and kind of the face of the Jazz franchise.
Well, I was extremely high on Mitchell coming into his rookie year. I thought that he had that special potential. And, yeah, I mean, his play on the court, he plays like a star. And I think that that's something that Utah hasn't necessarily ever had. I mean, Gordon Hayward was fine, but he didn't have the flash and like the athleticism that Donovan Mitchell has, and that stuff translates. And not to mention, he's actually like really, really fun guy. Like he's out at these barbecues during the summer. Like he's embraced the idea that he is the face of the franchise, and I think that matters quite a bit. But on the court, John Stockton, Karl Malone, a little bit more understated. And in that time, if you weren't an ISO wing, you weren't getting the sort of superstar attention, in that Michael Jordan mold. And I think Donovan Mitchell has kind of done that. He's got the ball in his hands a lot. He obviously has a lot of highlight dunks, scores the ball quite a bit, has been very clutch for a player his age, is not shying away from the spotlight. All the sorts of things that you want out of a guy that you're looking to build around long term. And it just so happens he's also pretty good at basketball, and that helps too.
Well, yeah, and he seems to be wildly popular among his peers too. And we know this league now, Dave, is a place where guys want to go play with guys they like, guys they know, guys that they can jive with. I'd be curious if you think Donovan could be an asset in the free agent market or whatever it might be for the Utah Jazz. They're not going to lure LeBron or Kawhi. We know that. But, is he a guy that people would want to come to play for in Salt Lake City?
I mean, listen, if Damian Lillard is sort of the model that he's following, he's doing a pretty good job of it so far. I think that, we're already seeing the workout videos, him and Mike Conley. You want to talk about a guy he can really learn from, who is well respected around the league, not only by teammates, but also by opposing players and other coaches. I think he's setting himself up in that Damian Lillard mold for sure. And so, we'll see. I mean, Utah, it's a tough market. So is Portland, like Damian Lillard. So we'll see if it actually pans out and he can attract big-time free agents. But we're a few years away from knowing that or not. He won't be doing it until year 5 or 6.